came out. We're right at the top. The two dots. Tanya, you have Tanya? Give me right on the. Okay, because I'm not having the same Gemara, and I forgot to bring. I didn't bring the other one tonight. Yeah. Tani, the third line. Yeah, beginning of the third line. Okay. You see that, Tani? Okay, Tanya. Let's say you're dealing with legumes, and legumes become chayv and maasros when you sift them. Okay, you sift the dirt from them. So that's not always true. That is what? Yeah, because they come very dirty. They grow in the ground. Legumes, peas and beans and things. They
grow above the ground, not like roots.
Yeah, but they grow down low, I guess, or something like that. Anyway, they're particularly dirty, and therefore they have to be sifted. They have to be sifted in sieves. So the bottom line is that there are two ways in which could become chayiv. If you intend to sift it, so then when it's sifted, it becomes chayiv and maasros. If you don't intend to sift it, in other words, you intend to eat it without sifting it, so then it becomes chayiv and maasros when you smooth its pile. What's called miruach by grain, when you smooth the pile, so that also becomes the point at which it's chayiv by legumes. The same idea.
What does it mean smoothing the pile?
You have a pile of it, and you make sure the pile is a nice pile. A huge pile. Yeah, it's no magic.
It's really smoothing.
It's really smoothing. Okay. The thing is like this: if you didn't intend to sift it, you still have to sift a little bit. You take truma from that which is sifted and that which is not sifted. Why is that? Because it's proper manners to the Kohen to give him sifted legumes. So even if you're a personal use of willing to eat non-sifted legumes, to give the Kohen you have to give him sifted stuff. Right, but the bottom line is that you have to sift off whatever you're going to give him, even though for yourself you don't care. Okay? On Rabbi Ela said that why is it true that for you personally, even if you didn't sift it, it can become chayiv and trumas and maasros. L'chayra, it would seem when you get home that nobody in their right mind is going to eat it without sifting it, as you just mentioned in passing. So he says an interesting thing. Amar Rabbi Ela, shekain derech bali batim. The custom of Baal Batim, of householders, is lios machnis l'toch batein, is that they bring into their house the legumes with their dirt. Why do they do that? My timer. What's the reason? Because it says va'alofim are oxen, va'yorim and donkeys of the Adama who work the land, balil chametz, a mixture of legumes which are not sifted, yochelu, they will eat. So occasionally you do bring into your house non-sifted legumes in order to feed the animals. So therefore, since you do that, there's a concept of utilizing legumes without ever sifting them. Since there is such a concept, so therefore, when you make a pile of this non-sifted legumes, if your intent is never to sift them, but rather to give them to your animals to eat and bring them into your house like that, so from that point on, they become chayv and maasros, and you can't snack from them anymore. You must take off all maasros before you snack from them. Okay? Says the Gemara further. What's next word you have? Kavar. If you sifted Rishusa Hekdesh, if you devoted your grain to the Beis HaMikdash, and the Beis HaMikdash then sifted the grain, and then you redeemed the grain, you might think that since previously, what do you have there?
It's the whole, it's the whole loophole.
Luchal, without the aleph, right? Since previously you could have eaten from it with this in form of a snack. now he cannot eat from it in the form of a snack. Why? Because it's already been sifted. Nonetheless, says the Gemara, Eino Kamisha Asa Meiser B'Shus Hekdesh. It's not considered to be as if the stage of becoming Chayiv and Meisers happened in the jurisdiction of Hekdesh. V'Chayiv. What? Eino. What do you have next? Kamosha also? Okay, so let me just find it here. I'll help.
What, do you switch the things around again? Just real quick thing.
Yeah.
What's the difference between Truma and Meiser?
Truma goes to a Kohen and Meiser goes to a Levi. Truma's it has no shiur, no measurements at all. Where the rabbi said give a 40th, 50th, 60th. The Meiser is a tenth of what's left.
Oh, okay. Meiser's a
So here, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, this is a different way of pagination. Yeah. So again, which word do you have now? Where you have to? Where's your finger point? Which word? Okay. It should. You have Kamosha Asa Meiser B'Shus Hekdesh V'Chayav. So he added just in the word Eino. Okay, it's not Kamosha Asa Meiser B'Shus Hekdesh V'Chayav, and therefore you continue to be Chayav and Meisers. Now this is going to be difficult. The Gemara is going to ask this. It would seem that since sifting is the defining moment, and that was done in the under the jurisdiction of Hekdesh, so therefore that should under jurisdiction of the Beis Hamikdash, so therefore that should exempt you from Trumas U'Maisros. Okay, you should not then have to take off Trumas U'Maisros, so because it was Hekdesh when it was sifted, right? Even if you redeemed it afterwards. So also Rabbi China asked on this. Vatani, didn't we learn Shila v'Kippah? Shila v'Kippah are both similar things. They're taking the scum off the top of the wine. There are two different ways of taking the scum off. One is taking the scum off by dipping a ladle into the wine and scooping it out, and the other is by skimming the scum itself off the face of the wine. So one gets the wine out from underneath the scum, the other takes the scum off on top of the wine. But be that as it may, both of these are steps in which you take scum off of wine. Okay, and depends if that was done Birsusa Hekdesh, that was done under Hekdesh's jurisdiction, right? And then upedo, and then you redeemed it afterwards. After that was done, taking off of the scum. So then afterwards, potter, you're exempt. Are we still together?
Yeah.
Okay, they're exempt afterwards. V'chein, and so too. What? No, I have a line before that. V'chein pikes v'shilek. Okay, before you have that, right? I'm just read outside. The pikes v'shilek. So too in the case of fuzz on melons. If that fuzz is removed when there was under Hekdesh's authority, and that was the imposter, you continue to be exempt. So why here, even though the sifting was done under Hekdesh's authority, are you not exempt? So Amar Rabbi Yudon, now you got it right. Taman over there by the wine. Shar low, it's not possible for him. Shalo, it should be you should have first the three words that you know, four words that you don't have. Shalo yishlev, shalo yikva. It's not possible. So you're not going to remove the scum. You got to remove the scum, right? And shalo yifkos instead of yichbosh, right? You have the word yichbosh, right? Should be v'shalo yifkos, v'shalo yishlok. You also have to remove the fuzz off the melons, okay? So therefore, there it's an integral part of the process. And if that integral part of the process is done by hekdesh, that exempts from Trumas and Ma'asros. However, Baram Hocha, Efshalo Shalol Marech, it's possible for him, you have Shalol Marech, but really it's supposed to be Efshalo Shalol Lichbor. It's possible that you won't do the sifting. We said before, the Amar Rabbi Ila said, Ha'alofim va'yorim v'goymer. It says the alofim and ayorim, they're going to eat from the stuff, and you're going to bring it to your house, the legumes, without sifting them. So you see, sifting is not an integral process of making legumes, chayiv and maasros. One can make a legume, chayiv and maasros, meaning that you can no longer snack from it, even just by making a pile. In a case where it's not going to be sifted, and it's not going to be brought in that way it's not going to be brought in sifted to the house, but it's going to be brought in whole together with the dirt intact. So therefore, what I'm trying to say in too many words is that when hekdesh does sifting, it's not that hekdesh is an integral part of the process. Sifting is like an icing on the cake type of thing. True. When a person does sifting, then sifting is the end of the process. But precisely because sifting is not integral. Sometimes when people use legumes without sifting them previously, so therefore the fact that hekdesh did this final step is not as definitive, and therefore does not exempt this legume from Trumas and Ma'asros. It's only when hekdesh did a step which is integral, necessary, and universal that exempts from Trumas and Ma'asros. Because that step which hekdesh did now is a step which was done beyond human ownership, and Trumas and Ma'asros require human ownership. Yes. It's because I'm using too many words.
No. You're talking about hekdesh, the same thing. We're not taking Trumas Ma'asros hekdesh. Right?
No, it's redeemed afterwards.
What?
It was only in hekdesh's hands for a short period of time. Okay. It was then redeemed. The question is, when you redeem it, does it become a fresh chayiv and Trumas and Ma'asros or not? And that depends what happened to it when it was in hekdesh's hands. Okay, yes, obviously it's... If hekdesh just owned it, no, that doesn't exempt from Trumas and Ma'asros. Something meaningful had to happen in hekdesh's hands.
So if they sifted it, whatever... That's
the question now. Whether sifting is considered meaningful.
Okay, I see.
If let's say there was grain, and they smoothed the pile, which is the meaningful step,
right.
So in that case we say that it subsequently cannot be chayiv with Trumas and Ma'asros ever again. Because they did, in hekdesh's hands, the meaningful and significant step in creating Trumas and Ma'asros responsibility was done by hekdesh. So therefore that exempts humans who reacquire it, even though they reacquire it later on, they're exempted from Trumas and Ma'asros. But here, this step is non-integral. Sifting is non-integral. So just because hekdesh did sifting, it doesn't exempt it from Trumas and Ma'asros. As long as a human will then subsequently, or previously, did miruach, did the smoothing of the pile.
So it's not really the advantage of Kohen to do anything like this.
No, it's never the advantage of Kohen to do anything like this, right?
Do anything meaningful.
Yeah. The Kohen, no, won't do anything.
So if they do something meaningful, it means they don't really want to, they're giving up their...
It's not the Kohen, by the way, also. The treasurer of the Beis HaMikdash. The Gizbar, it's called. The Gizbar. Okay?
Yeah, the Gizbar.
Okay.
The Gizbar is not necessarily a Kohen.
No. I mean, I guess it probably usually was, but it doesn't have to be one. Okay? Let's go further. Tani, we learned... avocolate, this means that if you have legumes that you're sifting, and some of the small legumes fall through the sieve into the dirt, with the dirt down below the sieve, right? So what's their status? The stuff which remains, because when you sift, I always get confused. When you sift, you really want the stuff which remains in the sieve, right? Not the stuff which falls out. So the stuff which remains in the sieve is now chayiv and Trumas and Ma'asros definitively, and you can't even snack from it. It's chayiv and Trumas and Ma'asros definitively. And now, if you bring it into your house, then you're not going to be able to snack from it. The thing is like this. I think I made a mistake before. Let me clarify that because I think I said it wrong before.
Okay.
Once you sift it, then what it does is that now when you bring it into your house after you sifted it, you can no longer snack from it.
Okay.
It's just like miruach. Miruach means you can't snack from it now after you bring it to your house subsequently. Okay? Is that clear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In the time between the time you sift or between the time you smooth the pile and bring it into your house, you can still snack. However, once you bring it into your house, you can no longer snack. The great chiddush by legumes over grain is that by grain, if you take it into your house
Right, you can snack.
dirty, you can still snack from it.
Right.
Because the process of cleaning grain takes place before miruach. Before miruach, you winnow it, you thresh it, you winnow it, you throw it to the winds, right, in order to so that's all beforehand. So taking dirty grain into your house doesn't take place, right? If you took dirty grain to your house, that dirty grain would still be susceptible to snacks.
Right.
By legumes, the sifting takes place after you smooth the pile.
Oh.
Okay? So therefore, we have here actually an interesting thing, which is that if you intend to sift, so that halacha that you're not allowed to snack once it enters your house only applies after you sift it. If you didn't intend to sift, like Rabbi Elo said, you're going to take it to your house in the dirt after the smoothing of the pile in order to feed your animals. So then the halacha is that you're not allowed to snack once you bring it to your house, even when it's dirty. And that's why we have the distinction between hekdesh and, but if you did hekdesh did miruach, they smoothed the pile by grain, or hekdesh did sifting by the case of the legumes. Because smoothing a pile is always essential. You always have to smooth the pile. So therefore, that critical step was done in the hands of hekdesh. That exempts this commodity from Trumas and Ma'asros ever. However, sifting is not an essential process to legumes. So therefore, even though sometimes it is, but since sometimes it isn't, if hekdesh did it, it doesn't exempt the legumes from Trumas and Ma'asros. Okay?
Okay, I remember with grain, it's out in the field, you can take break off a piece of wheat and eat it. Dress it.
Right, but that's before miruach.
Can you break off a pea pod?
Yeah, same idea. Okay, again, before miruach.
Okay.
Before smoothing, before sifting. Even then, it's still okay to snack until it enters your house. You need the two things together.
Okay, right.
You need the sifting or smoothing the pile plus entering your house. Except that there's 6 other things which the Rabbanon are tantamount to entering your house, one of which is that you're about to sell it. You're prepared to sell it.
Oh, okay.
Because then we said that since a customer might come anytime, it's as if it entered your house. Okay, so there were 6 stages like that. Okay, so here we're talking about a case where you did sift, but stuff went through, little kernels went through, or legumes went through to the dirt on the bottom below the sieve. So they're still not chayav and truma, so you can still snack from them. Even if you bring them into your house, you can still snack from them because they're not considered to have been sifted since they went through the sieve and didn't stay on top. Okay? Now, it says more further. Rav Chisda Amar. Now, the truth is, we're talking here about a new case in the Mishnah. The case in Mishnah was a case of kotim. And kotim are little grains, these are little legumes, the beans, which scatter. They don't actually go through the sieve. While you're pouring in the sieve, some of them scatter all around. Right? You miss.
Okay.
So what happens to the ones with which you missed? So Rav Chisda says they're exempt from Trumas and Ma'asros. Why? Because when are they exempt from Trumas and Ma'asros? Because we're talking about a case. I'm thinking I'm making a mistake. Time out. Let me just look back in the Mishnah. I think I'm making a mistake. Yeah, now we're switching back to grain. I was making a mistake. This is grain. Kotin. What is kotin? We're not talking about legumes anymore. We're talking about grain. What grains are we talking about here? It's not the stuff which falls on the side. This is grain. There's a certain type of grain which is called kotin, which is an example of Trumas and Ma'asros. Now, what is this? So Rav Chisda says, shein mechusoyin laruach. They weren't winnowed. Okay? They weren't winnowed. They weren't scattered to the wind in order to remove the chaff. Rabbi Ila b'Shem Rabbi Yasa said, Shei Mechusorin Naicha. They're missing nicha. They are winnowed, but they were never put to rest in a pile. Okay, so according to Rabbi Yasa, it's talking about a case. According to Rav Chisda, it's talking about a case where they are not yet winnowed. That grain is exempt from Trumas Ma'asros. Yeah, I guess even if you made a pile out of it, it's exempt from Trumas Ma'asros. According to Rabbi Yasa, we're talking about a case where they're completely clean, but they haven't yet been placed in the proper location. They haven't yet been placed in the grain silo. So it says more further. V'atninon, then we learn hayayin, wine, mishi yikbeh. Once you skim, it's considered to be already chayav and trumus u'maisris. Madam Marshe Mechusarin Nicha, according to opinion, who holds that these once they're clean. Wait a second. Yeah. Okay, I made this. Take a look back in the Mishnah for a moment. You have to see back in the Mishnah, otherwise this case is not understandable. You see by the little test. Oh yeah, I don't know if you have a test on that page. There's a line which says Yain Mishi Yikbeh. What? We'll have a little test. So Yain Mishi Yikbeh. Wine. Once you took the scum off, Aval Bisha Kippah, even though you took off the scum, however, Kolate Minagaso Leona, you can take that which is pouring from the upper the section of the wine press, Uminatina, that which comes from a pipe, the shoisa, and you can drink that. Okay? So this is a very interesting thing. Despite the fact that the stuff on the lower, okay, picture to yourself, you have a higher plus section and a lower section. And there's stuff flowing from the higher section into the lower section. And the lower section already took the scum off the top. Okay? Now new stuff is coming in from the upper section. What's its status? So we say that you can still snack from it. The stuff which comes from the top down, it's still subject to snacks. It's not yechayev and trumas u'maisros definitively. So it says there that wine, mishiyikbeh, even though you already took the scum off, you cleaned it, you can still drink, you can still use it as a snack. Let's go back to the Gemara now. Again, you see the Vahatznin on? Right on the top of Hamad base, the second word. Hamad base. Vahatznin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Wine, once you started skimming it, it could still, even though you skimmed it already, there's still possible to drink it in a way which won't make you chayiv and trumas u'maisros. That's good. I understand that. According to the opinion that says, Madam Hashem Mechusarin Nicha, according to the opinion holds that you're missing only putting in the right place, but it's already clean, and still you're exempt from trumas u'maisros. According to him, nicha, it's good, it makes sense. Madam Hashem Mechusarin leruach. However, he holds that you only exempt from trumas u'maisros when it hasn't yet been properly winnowed. But once it's been properly winnowed, then you're chayiv from trumas u'maisros because it's clean. How are you going to explain the Mishnah? The Mishnah which we just read, which says that even though it's been cleaned already, you're still exempt from trumas u'maisros, right? You're still allowed to snack. He answers, "Mechusarahu b'shmarav." Yes, the stuff which is coming down from the top is not yet completely clean either. You know why? Because it still has dregs in it, and that's why a person can take it and still snack from it, because the dregs which are still inside of it. Okay, shmarim are dregs. Hey, Rabbi Binyamin. Bar Gidol, Rabbi Yochanan Bar Gidol asks, but I have a similar kind of question. It says also in the Mishnah, which we the next part of the Mishnah, Hashem mishiyorad leuka, oil once it gets down to the collecting pit in the oil press. Nonetheless, even though some of it is down a collecting pit, the oil which is still in the press, you're allowed to use despite the fact that it's already pressed. It's still not definitively chayim and trumas u'maisros. According to the opinion that even if it's clean, as long as it hasn't rested in a collecting vat, it's exempt. That makes sense. According to the opinion, however, it says that you still need that anytime it's clean, it's chayim and trumas u'maisros. And when we're talking about coating in the Mishnah, which says that you're not chayim and trumas u'maisros, it's only because it's lacking cleaning, it's lacking winnowing. So where's the lacking cleaning here by the oil? It says, I'll tell you what it is. It seems when it sits in the collecting area at the bottom at the press, it gradually becomes clearer and clearer. I guess there's still some sediment which sinks to the bottom. So therefore, when that's what he holds, that as long as the oil has not yet sunk into the collecting pit, you can still snack from it because it's still not completely clean. What's it not completely clean of? This residue or sediment which would settle to the bottom once it got to the bottom of the press. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah. Let's see the Mishnah again for that little test. To the rest of the Mishnah. Halacha Dalet again. Land of Halacha Dalet. Hayai Mishiyikbe. Wine, once it's susceptible to once it took up the scum. What's the next? What do you have? Fafapi. Even though shakipa, even though you removed the scum, kolit minagasol, you can still take wine which is flowing out of the upper part of the press, minatinor from the pipeline, which shows and you may drink it. Hashem and mishirad leuka. Oil, once it goes down into a pit, into the collecting area, it's chayim and trumas u'maisros. Vafapi, nonetheless, babi shiur, even though it went down already, noito mina ekel, you can take from the basket in which you collect the olives. Mina memel. The memel is a big stone which presses down on the olives. Umin bein hapansim, and from between the boards are all around the press, holding in the oil in the press. V'nosein l'chamita, and you can take this oil and put it into a small cake. It's still considered to be snacking. U'tocha kara, and into your plate. U'tocha tamchay. Tamchay is like a divided plate. You know, like you get in cafeterias. That's what a tamchay is. Avalo yitei levasu kedera. You may not put your oil into a pot. Levis or there are two types of pots. Shem rutachim, when they're ready cooking. You know what? Even though technically speaking, you might say that, well, I'm snacking on the oil in my cooked food, but nonetheless, cooking already doesn't look like snacking. Cooking looks like what? A permanent usage, like a meal. So therefore, you're not allowed to use the stuff which the stuff which you have for the purpose of cooking. Now, if you use the stuff which is not yet meiser for the purpose of cooking, it's not considered to be a snack. Rabbi Yochanan Kol nosing, you can put this stuff which is not yet meiser and still have it considered snacking into anything, except midar v'sheish b'chol mitzatzir, something which has vinegar and brine in it. And the Gemara will explain why these things are unique. Okay, let's go back to the Gemara. V'nosin l'chamita. Do you have that?
I'm sure I do, but I don't know where I am. Okay.
Hammer base. Give me the Gemara, I'll show you. You don't have it. Okay, he's got a whole section which you don't have. I'm sure it's somewhere else. I don't know. Let me read it to you outside. Okay. But first the header. You can put it into a small cake and into a dish. Tanya, we learned the Brisa, you shouldn't put it into a vessel to continuously use it. You shouldn't store the untight stuff. Say, well, I'm going to use it for the next snack, and the next snack, and next for the next dozen snacks. It obviously doesn't wash properly. Okay, now you have the next part. Hoya ochel. I didn't show you. Just told you it's there. Hoya ochel v'hosir. Right there. Okay. Hoya ochel. Okay, I have hoya ochel, and I have an extra word here which you don't have. V'hosir, you're eating and you left over. V'choshcha, and it got dark. V'leil Shabbos, the Leil Shabbos, at Friday night. Oh, shenosam lo damacher, or you gave it to another individual. You sold this grain. Now this grain is not nigmar malachto, right? It hasn't yet been. It hasn't even yet been miruach. It hasn't even had its file smooth, right? So in this case, Rabbi Shir. Just a minute.
If you're in private, then you know you're
Lo nitbelu. They have not yet become tevel. Okay? They're not considered to be tevel. Why? Because you can continue to eat as a snack after Shabbos is over, or that other individual can continue to eat as a snack. Rabbi Yirmiyah.
So now we continue with what happened with
I have a whole section here in the middle which you don't have. You have next words by you, Rabbi Yirmiyah, right? Do you have the place? Okay, I have a whole section. Listen to what I have to say here. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Shimon ben Elazar said, when is this true? This is only if you're eating and you still have some stuff left and it just happens to get dark Friday night. But you should not premeditatedly intend to eat until chanigro and harvey and put your olive oil, which you're snacking on, into a lot of vegetable juice, in order to bishvil shiyosi achlan stov beso, in order to then bring it into your house and leave it over Shabbos and snack Motzei Shabbos. In other words, you could find a loophole as a result of this and say, well, Shabbos is not going to make me chayav. Let me bring in a lot and store it and then continue snacking Motzei Shabbos. That you're not allowed to do. But you're allowed to, the snack which you were eating Erev Shabbos, you can wait till Motzei Shabbos and then continue eating it without tithing it in the interim. Okay? Now, Rabbi Yirmiyah Savar Meimar, this you have, right? Rabbi Yirmiyah thought to say, let me just find it here. B'nasun b'chamito v'tamchui, that when the Shabbos not make something fixed for Trumas Ma'asros, when the stuff is in a small cake or in a plate, the tamchui plate. Avo b'nasun b'tzlochis, but if it's in a pottery, I don't know, pottery is the right word, but if it's in a jug, nitbal, then Shabbos says, that's it. You no longer eat it at all. Even snacking without Trumas Ma'asros. Even snacking you can't do anymore. You have to take Trumas Ma'asros off of it. Rabbi Yosef said no. Even if it's in slochis, even if it's in a pitcher or in a bottle, lo nitbal, doesn't become tevel as a result of Shabbos. In other words, you can just skip right through Shabbos and then snack after Shabbos is over. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, V'ein Shabbos toveles. Does Shabbos not make it tevel? And he said, V'ein mekach tovel. Don't sales make it also make it suitable for suitable? Don't sales make it tevel? You can no longer drink it. So says the Gemara, what to respond to him? He says, Amalei Kahuta Amar Rabbi Yossi b'Shem Rabbi Zera. No. Like Rabbi Yossi said, in the name of Rabbi Zera. And Rabbi Yoina said, b'Shem Rabbi Zera, b'Shem Rabbi Elazar. Laser. Masha b'lagin lo nitbal. You know what? That which is in the ladle doesn't become tevel because you can put it back when it's something where the work is not complete. Now, this is a very interesting thing. What he says, what I meant to say, that Shabbos doesn't make it real tevel. In other words, that after Shabbos you continue snacking it. It's something where you can put back the oil back in the press. In other words, it's since you could override what you did, can't perhaps override is the wrong word. Reverse. Excuse me. Reverse what you did. What you did is that you took oil out of the press, the snack. You could still put it back. So what's if you put it back Friday afternoon, you put it back after Shabbos is over? That's called lo nigmara malachto. It's not completely processed yet. The fact that you can put it back, that Rabbi Yonah says is enough that it's exempt from Trumas Ma'asros. Okay? Says tomorrow. Why does Rabbi Yirmiyah argue? So it says tomorrow, Chele de Rabbi Yirmiyah. We don't have Chele?
Yeah, I thought it was on the wrong way.
Chayole, or you have Chayole maybe. The strength of right. The strength of Rabbi Yirmiyah's position is sustained, min hada, from the following case. In other words, Rabbi Yirmiyah derives his position from the following case. What does it say? I have the Tzniya Tamon, it says over there, but it's not sure, mate. Vodam Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar also said, I made Adam ala muktzeh erev Shabbos shebeshvius. A person could stand on his muktzeh. Now, muktzeh, nowadays we know what we mean when we say muktzeh, right? Something you can't touch for Shabbos. But here means, here specifically in those days, it meant something which was muktzeh by virtue of the fact that it's going to be becoming raisins or dried figs. Because while it's becoming raisins or dried figs, you were here for the next year? Okay, it's going to be downstairs. Yeah, but you can listen to this, it's okay. Well, won't charge you extra.
Okay. You're saying this is when it's...
What?
You're saying when it's in the process of becoming raisins.
Yeah, while food is in the process of becoming raisins and figs, it's muktzah. What does it mean it's muktzah? You set it aside. Because people don't use half-made raisins or half-made figs. What? Half-dried. Okay? So it says that you can stand by your muktzah, meaning by the area where you put your drying raisins or drying figs. You can stand there Erev Shabbos, on Erev Shabbos, for Shvius, during the Shemitah here. And you could say, Mikan ani, the other word Mikan? Mikan ani yoichel l'mochar. I'm going to eat from here tomorrow. Alright? In other words, you can stand there and say, I'm going to eat from here tomorrow. Why by Shemitah? Because Shemitah is no din of Meiser.
Oh, I see.
So you don't have to worry about Meisers. And that's what Rabbi Yirmiyah picks up on. Lo Amar Ella B'Shvius. He's only talking about by Shemitah, when there's no problem Meisers. Hashashne Shavua. But any other the years of the 7-year cycle, lo. That's no good. Why is that? It must be that Shabbos requires you to meiser even these raisins and figs, which are lo nigmara malachton, which are not yet complete. So we see the raya proof for Rabbi Yirmiyah. Ma avid la Rabbi Yossi. What does Rabbi Yossi do with the? Oh, you don't have that at all. Okay, he has here an addition. Ma avid Rabbi Yossi. What's Rabbi Yossi going to do with Rabbi Yirmiyah's proof? That means. But here's proof is a good one. You see there that even right now it's still even right now it's sorry. The Yirmiyah says that in this case we see that as long even if you can put it back afterwards, it's still considered Shabbos as Koveya, even by Davar Shlo Nigmar Malachto, even if it's not complete. So what does Rabbi Yonah do? Rabbi Yonah is the one who said. I'm sorry, I keep saying Rabbi Yonah, Rabbi Yossi. What does Rabbi Yossi do? Rabbi Yossi is the one who said that Shabbos is not kovev, it's something which you can put back. Shabbos does make it chayav and Trumas Ma'asros, so you put back, and here you can't put it back. You take the raisins, you put back the raisins, they're still going to keep drying, right? So it says, the Gemara will tell you what the difference is. Where he says, Lachzir lim kaimo. What?
Is that a month?
Yeah. Lachzir limkomo. It's right, almost at the bottom of Hammer base. Lachzir limkomo. Actually, it's not quite at the bottom. Lachzir limkomo. See here? Lachzir limkomo iata. Lachzir limkomo iata yochel shuosa mukta. You can't put it back tomorrow. Why is that? Rabbi Yossi says, you know why over there by the raisins and the figs, if you designate them, they're chayim and trumas and maasros? Because you can't put them back tomorrow. Because it's halach on Shabbos, you're not allowed to create muktzah. You're allowed to consciously create something, make something muktzah. And if you put the raisins and figs away to dry on Shabbos, then that's called making them muktzah, consciously pushing them aside. That's forbidden. So therefore, Shabbos, in this case, the halacha of muktzah on Shabbos will not allow you to return the raisins and figs to the place where they're drying. Now you don't get it, right?
Well,
again, Rabbi
put something aside.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So at the end, you can't.
You know what it's like? There's a halacha that if oil is going to drip, but we're going to see this later in the Bavli. If oil is dripping out of your candle, you can't put a vessel underneath that oil to catch it, because then that vessel is going to become muktzah, because the oil is muktzah. They won't be allowed to move that vessel which contains the oil.
That's only if you oil for Shabbos.
Right. It's talking about Shabbos oil. So that's called mevatel kli me'achoner. You're taking a vessel out of its character.
Oh, I see.
So too here, Rabbi Yossi's machlokas is really machlokas, the crux of which is whether, when I can return something, hypothetically, but I can't return it because of Shabbos, is that called returnable or not? So I can return half-done raisins to the drying area, in reality. But Shabbos won't allow me to do that. So Rabbi Yossi says that in of itself is enough to make a chayim and trumas and maasros from the time Shabbos begins. The fact that halacha impedes upon me on Shabbos returning it to the drying area. Again, because I'd be consciously making muktzah. Rabbi Yirmiyah didn't understand there's such a distinction. He holds as long as it can be put it back, because in terms of reality, that's sufficient. That should be sufficient in order to prevent it from becoming bona fide chayim and trumas and maasros. But that is not true according to Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says as long as halacha prevents you from returning it, it already comes chayim and trumas and maasros at the onset of Shabbos. Okay? Masnisa pliga Rabbi Yirmiyah. Our Mishnah argues with Rabbi Yirmiyah. Or I shouldn't say our Mishnah. The Mishnah about to learn argues with Rabbi Yirmiyah. What's the Mishnah that argues with Rabbi Yirmiyah? Are you with me?
I think so. That's on A?
Yes.
Okay.
Ein arai l'Shabbos.
Right.
It says that there's no snacking on Shabbos. The problem is that doesn't argue Rabbi Yirmiyah. That's what Rabbi Yirmiyah says.
Right.
Rabbi Yirmiyah says on Shabbos you're not allowed to snack. Shabbos is always kovea. So that's why he changes the gears and he says the gears should be masnisa pliga Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi was the one who said Shabbos is not always kovea. As long as you could put it back, Shabbos doesn't make something chayim and trumas and maasros definitively. As long as you could put it back, it's not chayim and trumas and maasros. So there's actually a proof against Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says that there is snacking even after Shabbos begins. He says there's no snacking after Shabbos begins. That's it. Finished. Anything becomes chayim and trumas and maasros definitively once Shabbos begins. There's no snacking. Okay? Says the Gemara, pasar law. So what is Rabbi Yossi going to do with this? He's going to say, it's something where you're not allowed to put it back on Shabbos from whence it came, such as they have done raisins and dates, where you're not allowed figs, you're not allowed to put it back to where they were. So that's why they are not, there's not susceptible snacking. Once Shabbos begins, that's it. They can no longer be snacked upon. Anything else which could be put back theoretically is not considered to be a prom to snack on Shabbos. Okay? Says more, I'll die to Rabbi Yirmiyah. According to Rabbi Yirmiyah, of course, lo shani udavar sheish lo muktzah, lo shani udavar she'ein bo muktzah. Rabbi Yirmiyah holds regardless, there's no snacking on Shabbos, no matter what we're talking about, even if you put back, period, there's no permission to snack on anything on Shabbos. Okay? As long as it's chayv and trumas and maasros. Rabbi Mona asked the question, Haisat slochis maleo. Are you with me?
It's no. Rabbi Momin?
Mana. Do you have next word, boy? Give me.
Oh, like that.
Raimona boy, you asked the question. Haisat slochis maleo. You had a plate, a pitcher full of oil. So that should be, when Shabbos begins, that should become chayiv in Trumas and Ma'asros. That's what Rabbi Yirmiyah said. There's no snacking on Shabbos, right? But Nisuna ben Patel Chavero. But it's still in the press. It's between the boards of the press. It never left the press. Nitbala does become tevel once Shabbos begins. In other words, the Shabbos definitively make a chayiv in Trumas and Ma'asros. Or perhaps it's even though it's in a pitcher, in a vessel, but since the vessel's in the press itself, and it's not nigmar malachto, it's not fully completed yet, lo nitbala doesn't become tevel. And the Gemara doesn't resolve this question. This is a very basic question. Again, Rabbi Yirmiyah, the machlokes between Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rabbi Yossi is where the process is complete. Nigmar malachto. Does Shabbos prevent you from subsequently ever snacking on again or not? Okay? So Rabbi Yirmiyah says that which is completed and Shabbos begins, you can never snack on it again. Rabbi Yossi says, no, it depends. If it's something which can be put back from whence it came, so you can still snack it. If it cannot be put back to whence it came, you cannot snack on it. So now we bring that. So now we're asking, what if it's something which was taken away? It's nigmar merlachto. It's put into a pitcher, but the pitcher was left in the press. So in that case, it's considered to be the Shabbos make a chayiv in Trumas and Ma'asros or not, and the Gemara doesn't answer the question. Okay, we're going downstairs in a minute. Let's just finish the Amud. It said in the Mishnah that you shouldn't put if you put it into a hot pot, it's a problem. Okay, you can't put it into a hot pot. Okay, so he says here, ad heichon. What is a hot pot defined as? So Rabbi Yehuda bar Pazi, Rabbi Simon Reis said, ad shekadei tei noisin yod l'socha. If your hand is in it, nichves, it burns. So if your hand is in it and it burns, then that's a hot pot. And once the food is put there, it's for sure chayiv in Trumas and Ma'asros. There's no going back at that point. Hakomod in mikli sheni shu mutter. However, everybody agrees that you put into a kli sheni, that's mutter because it's not really hot, just like by Shabbos. Ma'ben your kli rishon kli sheni. What's the between kli rishon and kli sheni? Amar Rabbi Yosef said, kan hayat shuletes v'kan ein hayat shuletes. By kli rishon you can't stick your hand in. By kli sheni it's not so hot you're ready to stick your hand. It literally out of its control. Rabbi Yosef say, you know what? Even if kan v'kan ein hayat shuletes, even if you can't stick your hand to kli sheni, it's so hot you can't stick your hand into the kli sheni, the second vessel. Nonetheless, it's still not considered to be a problem. Why? Because Chazal made takana that when you put it into a hot pot, so it's already chayiv Trumas and Ma'asros, boom. That's only by kli rishon they made that takana. The lo asu parchokel kli sheni, they didn't make that takana to be so machmir by kli sheni when it put into a secondary pot, not into the primary pot where it's going to be cooked. Amar Rabbi Mona. Rabbi Mona said, are you still with me?
Yes.
Hadein pincha da rosa, misayeh la'aba. You have pincha da adia. It should be pincha da rosa. You have a clump of rice. It's like my father Rabbi Yonah said. V'hadein pincha. It should be again. V'hadein pincha da grusa. Also a clump of hot beans. Misayeh la'aba. Why? That mafnile min asar la'asar. Vad kaduna rasach. You take it out of the first vessel and put it in the second vessel, and it's still hot. So we see that kli rishon and kli sheni doesn't necessarily make a difference in terms of the heat. Yet nonetheless, there will be a difference in terms of the takana. That in a kli rishon, once you put it in the food, it's got to be tight because that looks like it's already kavua. It's permanent. Once you put it in the kli sheni, it's not. Now, in terms of Hilchos Shabbos, we do say that there's a difference between a solid food and a liquid food. But the Gemara doesn't make that this difference here today. And we'll stop here.